Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin. Sayyidina wa habibina wa shafi'ina wa nuri qulubina wa qurrati a'yunina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa barik wa sallim. نوينا التعلم والتعليم وتذكر وتذكر والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم ودعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى مع لطف وعافية برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني ومشرب الصافي الهني وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني ومشرب الصافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك العلم لدني ومشرب الصافي الهني يا وهاب يا غني. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. آمين. Alhamdulillah. Okay, we are doing fasting. Yeah, saum in fasting. Okay, Bismillah. I think we have finished zakat kan? The last lesson. Right, the whole of zakat has finished. So now we're doing fasting. So Bismillahirrahmanirrahim min kitab Safinatun Najah. The book The Ship of Salvation. Like on the chapter of fasting, we've gone through what causes for fasting to be, what brings in Ramadan. That's the last lesson. So now we are here. So I've read through again. Correct? If I'm not wrong. I've read through all of this. Okay. Alright, so now we're in the section of the conditions for the validity of fasting are four. شروط صحته أربعة أشياء. The conditions of fasting being valid are four conditions. The first one is Islam وعقل ونقاء من نحو حيض وعلم بكون الوقت قابلا للصوم. Right, so the conditions of the fasting to be valid are four: to have Islam, to be a Muslim, right? To be sane. It means to have to be mumayyiz, not mumayyiz, but to be sane. To have someone's consciousness, right? And to be sane, right? For your fasting to be valid. I mean, so what is not counted as someone who is not sane, right? Would be somebody who is insane. Right, that is what you count as someone who is not sane, right? Someone who is insane. So the fasting of an insane person, right, is not counted because they cannot perform acts of worship in the first place. Right? They are not sane in themselves. So therefore, acts of worship is not not counted, right, for them, right, because they have no sanity on them. Now, okay, purity from menses or from menses or from nifas, right? So someone who is on menses or nifas, right? There is no fasting for them. They're not allowed to fast, and they're not able to fast, right? And their fasting is not counted, and them fasting is sinful on them. Okay, the knowledge of its appropriate time, right? To know that the timing for fasting has come in, right? So, or to know that it is time for fasting, right? So you must have certainty that Fajr has come in and that you are in the month of Ramadan, right? So someone who is fasting, that not in the month of Ramadan, right, and just fasting or unsure if it's Ramadan, then the fasting is not valid for this person. Right? These are the conditions for the fasting to be valid. Right? So which basically for sanity, right, is someone who has a sane mind. Is the definition of the one who's they know what they're doing. Right? So for someone who is mumayyiz, right? So mumayyiz, a child who is mumayyiz above the age of 7, the fasting is valid. Right? The fasting of this child, if the child fulfills the conditions of fasting, the fasting is valid. However, for the child who is non-mumayyiz, right, they've not reached the age of tamyiz, their fastings are actually not valid, right? Because they don't know what breaks. They can't make intention. Right? Those before tamyiz cannot actually make intention, and in fact, to place the fasting on those who have not reached the age of tamyiz. Right? There are scholars who would consider that to be a form of oppression, right, on children, right? Because they're not able to take on the fasting, and they're growing, right? They're growing, they need the nutrients, right? So usually for children, you put the fast, you encourage them on fasting, right, once they have reached the age of tamyiz, which is usually around the age of 6 or 7, right? But even then, it's encouragement, right? So just as how you encourage the prayer, you encourage the fasting. It's encouragement, right? But if they are really unable to, right, then don't force them lah. Don't force them on it, right? So for myself personally, if I, when I teach preschoolers, right, sometimes the family puts it on them to not, I mean, to do the fast. It's not like, if they really can't, don't do it, right? If they really can't, don't make them do it, right? Because it's just gonna affect them and affect the way they study and they learn, right? And it's not compulsory on them anyway, right? The religion has not made it compulsory on them, so like, who are we to make it compulsory, right? Right, on them, right? So if the religion has not made it compulsory on them, then don't make it compulsory on them, but let them be. Let them be. If they want to try, they can try, right? If they, and in fact, like what some people will do is do it half day. That's just good enough for them. Or some people, they remove the snacks, right? So there's no snacking in between, right? So they can eat proper meals. They eat early in the morning, right? Their breakfast. They eat lunch, and then they break fast with the family, right? For example, right? So there's no snacking in between, right? So they kind of thing like, where you can kind of train them, on it slowly, all right? Right, but to force them into it, right, that would be unjust lah. They'd be unjust on them, right? Because they are not, especially because they are growing and they're not able to do it, and the religion has not made it compulsory on them, right? So sanity, right? So the first one is Islam, right? So fasting is not valid from a kafir, right? So even if someone is interested in Islam and they are fasting just to try out fasting, and they have not come into Islam, their fasting is not valid, right? So they're doing fasting, and they're not really not getting anything out of it except being hungry, right? There's no reward, right, for them. So if they want to get reward, they must come into Islam first, mashallah. Then they get the reward. Sanity, right? So it's not valid fasting of a crazy person, right? Thirdly, it is for someone to be clean of menses and nifas. And the fourth one is to know that the time for fasting has come in, right? So and that the day whereby they're fasting is not a haram day to fast, right? So while the time for fasting is in Ramadan for what is wajib, right? Besides that, on days whereby you are fasting, you must know that you're not fasting on a haram day, right? So the days of Eid, days of Tashriq, these are haram days to fast, so you're not fasting on a haram day. Okay. All right. فصل شروط وجوبه خمسة أشياء. All right. So there's a difference here, and I want you all to be very clear on the difference, right? So here is conditions of the fasting being valid. Okay, the fasting being valid. Here is conditions of the fasting being compulsory. Okay, there's a big difference there. Okay, first one is it being valid, the conditions of it being compulsory. Let's see the footnote here. A non-Muslim would not be asked to fast, and nor would it be valid if he did, even though he is punished in the next life for not doing so. Right? So non-Muslims are actually punished for all the wajibs that they did miss. Because the first wajib for them is to say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. There is an understanding, eh? The first wajib on them is to say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. And all the other wajibs in Islam is also still compulsory on them, because all these wajibs are all compulsory on every human being. It is wajib on every human being. It's compulsory on every human being to worship Allah. It is wajib or compulsory on every human being to perform the obligations that Allah has placed on all human beings. Actually, that is a punishment. May Allah protect us from this. Right? A woman whose period ends during the day of Ramadan, it is recommended, mustahab, recommended, right, for her to fast the rest of the day. It's called imsak. Right? And it's wajib for her to make up the fast, and the fast days prior to it, when missed during her period or postnatal bleeding, right? So even if you finish your menses at early in the morning, like for example 6:30, like your menses ends, right? The day is not counted for you, but it's recommended for you to remain in the state of fasting as a respect for Ramadan. Okay, so conditions of the fast becoming compulsory are five. Islam, mukallaf, right? Meaning what is mukallaf? Mukallaf is the one who is obligated, right? So reaching the age of puberty and having sanity, right? So here is a form of tamiz, right? So sanity, so someone who is not who is mentally sound, right? So the one who is mentally sound, right? It is compulsory and has puberty. It is compulsory on such a person to fast. And an ability, right? So it's compulsory on the one who is not sick. Right? So the opposite of being not sick, opposite of ability is someone who is sick. Right? So someone who is unwell, right? Then he is not required for this person to fast. And in fact, if someone is unwell on an illness that he has no hope of being cured from, right? So if someone is unwell on an illness that he has no hope of being cured from, right? Then for this person, there is a payment of the fidya. Right? Every day of Ramadan, he pays an amount, right? To make up for the day of Ramadan that he has missed. Right? For the one who is unwell with no hope of him being cured from that illness, right? And the illness is an illness that prevents fasting. Okay. However, if somebody is unwell with an illness whereby there is hope of him being cured from the illness, right? Then for this person, if he does not fast on the day whereby he's ill, then it is on him to make up the fast later on. Okay, and inshallah we'll go into the entire issue of missing the fast, right, for someone who is pregnant or breastfeeding and so on. And later on a commentary on it, right? So we will go into that. Right, so for the one who's the health of the person, right? So if the person is pregnant, for example, and for example unable to fast, right, because very weak, so it's a form of illness lah. It's a form of illness. The person gets incredibly weak and it can harm the person, right? So the person, if they break the fast for themselves, yeah, that it can harm themselves, right? So they break the fast for themselves, right? Then they are to make up the fast, right? On days whereby they are healthier and stronger. However, if they break the fast out of fear, right, for the child, okay, the child that they are carrying or the child that they are breastfeeding, same thing, whether it's pregnancy, whether it's breastfeeding, same thing. If the reason for breaking the fast is yourself, then all you have to do is later on just make up the fast when you're able to. If the reason whereby you break the fast is for the child, that means for somebody else, right, then you have to make up the fast and pay the fidya. You must pay fidya, right, because you've broken the fast not for yourself, not for your needs, but for the child's health and for the child's needs. And so fear for the child, right, or you break the fast for the child, and then you have to make up the fast and pay the fidya, right, on that. Same thing if you were to break your fast for somebody else, right? So for example, if someone is drowning, for example, right, and then you jump into the water and you try and save the person. In doing so, you swallow some water. That means you break your fast, right? And you swallow the water knowingly that you're swallowing water, right? And you break your fast. So in this case, you have broken your fast for the sake of someone else, right? So in this case, right, you have to make up the fast and pay fidya, because you broke the fast for the sake of somebody else. Okay, same thing with the child. Same story, same issue. Okay, with regards to so it's compulsory on those who are not travelers. So for those who are travelers, right, they are allowed to break the fast. Right, the fast is not compulsory on them. However, it is recommended, right, the traveler to not break the fast. Right? Why? Because for the traveler, they have to make up the fast anyway. Right? So it's better that if you can fast while traveling, it's better that you fast. As opposed to jama' and qasar prayers. And for jama' and qasar prayers, to combine and to shorten prayers, it is recommended that you combine and you shorten your prayers. as opposed to praying it full length, even if you're able to. As if you're traveling, for example, you're traveling to KL, right, to Malaysia, right, and you can do your Jamaah and Qasar, but at the same time you're like, actually I can just pray full. It's not a big deal because I'm at the hotel. I'm not doing much. I can pray full, but it is recommended that you actually take the concession of the religion, right? It's recommended. Why? Because you don't have to do a qada of it anyway. There's no qada, right? Of the prayers that you pray in Jamaah and Qasar, as opposed to fasting. Right? Fasting, and you say, I'm a traveler, I don't want to fast. Okay, you're allowed that. That is given to you. It's a concession. It's given to you. You're allowed to not fast. But if you're able to fast, you are recommended to fast. Why? Because the fast has to be made up anyway, right? So fast lah. Right, better to fast and then to miss the fasting now in Ramadan. Then you have to make it up anyway and later on. Okay, all right. Right. So right, so so you're allowed to not fast if the travel is far travel, right? So more than 91 kilometers in some opinions, right? So it has to be a far travel, a travel that would enable you to shorten the prayers. Okay, so a travel whereby you're allowed to shorten the prayers, you're allowed to break the fast if you have to, right? If you really want to, right? So with regards to these conditions, right, it is compulsory for the one to do a qada of their fasts only on those who miss the fast because of menses or nifas, miss the fast because of travel, right, or miss the fast because they left Islam. Okay, so if someone murtad, so these three people, it is compulsory on them to make up the fast, right? The murtad, they left Islam, then they came back to Islam. Right? So if they left Islam and they went through several Ramadans, not as a Muslim but as a murtad, right? So they're not kafir asli. Right? Kafir asli means somebody who is born a disbeliever or born a non-Muslim. You will say that. Afwan. Right? So born a non-Muslim. So for this person, of course, when you come into Islam, it's a fresh, it's a clean slate, right? And they have no need to make any previous fast. Right? But for the one who was Muslim, then Billah became non-Muslim, and then now they come back into Islam, right? All the years whereby they were non-Muslim, they have to make up the praying and the fasts. They must make up, and the zakat. They must make it up. They must make up the praying and the fasts and the zakat. And if they had done Hajj or Umrah before they became a murtad, they must redo the Hajj and Umrah. They must. Right? Oh, it's very heavy on the murtad. And this is to discourage people from leaving Islam. Right? Because they have to make it up. Subhanallah. But if telling them this would discourage them from coming back into Islam, they don't tell them, right? Then only when the Islam is strong, the Iman is strong, then you tell them. Actually, the years whereby you were a murtad, you have to make it up. You actually have to make it up, but only after they have actually reached like a strength in their Iman. Okay, all right. For those on menses and nifas, yes, you must make it up. And for the one who missed it because of travel or because of health, right? They have to make it up. However, for a child, there is no makeup of the fast that they missed during their childhood before puberty. For the one who was born a non-Muslim, when they come into Islam, of course, there is no makeup of the fast that they missed, right? But it's all it's a clean slate. It's a clean slate. Right. As for the one, and we're going to go into inshallah in a while, as to who is going to be made up, as to who it is, on who it is compulsory, right, to make up. For the one who is majnoon, right, who has lost his sanity, that means not sane, and lost his sanity, right, and not that he caused himself to lose his sanity. Okay, it's not someone who caused himself to lose his sanity. So, for example, who is the one who caused themselves to lose sanity? There will be someone who maybe, for example, took some drugs, right, or some pills that made them lose their mind, right? So they did it on purpose. They took these pills on purpose and they lost their mind on purpose. Then those fasts are compulsory on them to make up. Right. However, if someone they just lost their mind or lost their sanity not on purpose, right? Then for them, the fasting is not compulsory on them in the first place. Right? So there is no make up on them, right, for such people. Okay, let me just read through the footnotes here. right? A child of 7 is ordered to fast. At 10 is beaten for not fasting. Same thing with prayer. Same ruling with prayer. They are ordered to pray at 7. They are ordered to fast at 7, right? And then you can hit them, lightly with a siwak, right? For example, for not praying or not fasting when they are 10 with a hadith, in accordance to the hadith, right? So not severely, but so to discipline the child, and not more than 3 blows. I mean, it's not 3 hits, right? But 3, right, taps, right, with a siwak. Okay. In Islam, hitting is never meant to hurt the person, except in the hudud law, so by you whip. Right? So whipping, right, that is meant to hurt the person who has committed a crime. But hitting, to discipline, is not supposed to hurt. It's supposed to just give the child, like, to wake up, and to do what is compulsory on them, to show the seriousness of the matter. Okay, one is capable of bearing the fast. Someone who's fasting exhausts them because of advanced years or having an illness from which he is unable to recover from, not required to fast, right? But they are required to pay the fidyah. Okay, the illness that permits not fasting being that which fasting would worsen or delay recovery from, right, or cause one considerable harm with it. The same dispensation applying for someone who needs to take medicine during the day that breaks the fast, and he cannot delay taking it till the night. Right? So someone who needs to take their medicines regularly, right, to maintain their health. Right? So such a person, right, they're allowed to not fast, and it is if this is a permanent situation or permanent condition, then they pay fidyah, right, for their missed fast. It is permissible to not fast in traveling even when the intention to fast is made the night before, provided the journey is at least 80 kilometers in one way. It means far distance, and that one leaves town before dawn, right? So you have to be a traveler before the beginning of the day. So you must have left town and become a traveler, right? Then you can skip the fast for that day. But if you left town like mid-morning or in the afternoon, right, then you cannot skip. You cannot break the fast. You have to continue the fast till the end, right? So you have to begin the day as a traveler. I means dawn, begin day meaning dawn. If one leaves after dawn, he's not entitled to omit the fast. It is preferable for travelers to not to fast if fasting would harm them. And though if not, then fasting is better, right? Because you have to make up the fast anyway. Okay. All right, Alhamdulillah. So now going into the arkan of fasting in Ramadan. Let me just go to this. How do advisors who are unwell but insist on fasting despite having repercussions that they may have on their health? All right. So if someone is unwell and they insist on fasting and the fasting is affecting them, right? And they really, and is it detrimental on their health? If it's detrimental on them to fast, so basically, every individual needs to decide for themselves if they're able to fast, right? So if they decided for themselves that they are able to fast, right, then let them fast lah. If they're going to decide for themselves they're able to fast, right? But even if for them fasting would just make them lie down in bed the entire day and only get up to pray the prayer, if that's how they want to do it, then up to them. It's up to them. If they want to do it that way, it's up to them, right? But if it's really causing them severe harm, like serious harm, they makes them deteriorate in themselves, right? Then you can say that, so you can inform them that it is an amana on them to not harm themselves. It's haram for a Muslim to do things to harm themselves. Okay, right? So you can just say it to them. But basically, everyone has their rights to decide for themselves if they want to fast or not want to fast. They have a right to decide. Right? So and they will decide to break the fast if they really can't take it. Right? I mean, most human beings, if you really can't take it, it's a point of like real a lot of pain, with regards to the fasting. Most Muslims will break it, right? Most adults will break it because you can't take it. MashaAllah. Right. Yeah. So with regards to whether it's haram or not, it's regards to how what basically you have to decide for yourself. The person has to decide for themselves, is the harm detrimental or irreversible, right? Because with regards to this kind of things in Islam, there is an inherent difficulty. It is inherently difficult. Fasting is inherently difficult. Going for Hajj is inherently difficult. There are things in our religion, but they are inherently difficult. You're meant to struggle. You are meant to struggle, right? But if the harm is really severe and detrimental and it's irreversible, then there's an amanah lah on the body that you can't do that to your body. Okay, but if the harm is like they can tahan until buka, can tahan until breakfast, can, then okay lah, let them be. They want to lie on the whole day, lie on the whole day lah. Let them be. If they want to really, tahan, until breakfast, if they want to, it's up to them. And so you can't actually force them or say to them haram, because it's basically perception, right? Right? What you perceive to be harmful on them, they perceive is not harmful on them, right? But they can bear with it. It's a very hard line to draw, mashallah. Okay. Section, the integrals of fasting of Ramadan are three: to make the intention at night for each day of the fard fast, right? To make an intention at night for each day of the fard fast, to refrain from intentionally doing things which break the fast for the one who is conscious of his fast and is not ignorant, the fasting person himself. You must have a person who's doing the fasting. The person himself is an integral of fasting. Okay, the first one, to make an intention each night for each day of fast. So basically anytime between Maghrib and the Azan of Subuh. And the intention has to run in your heart that you want to fast the very next day of Ramadan. Just intend, I'm going to fast the very next day of Ramadan, right? So as for sunnah fast, you can fast any point in time as long as it's before Zuhur, for as long as you have not done anything to nullify the fast for sunnah fast. Okay, so now comes the question, like, does it count, right? Does it count for me, right? Does it count for me, right, if I just eat sahur, right, and I don't do any intention and I fast the following day? Right, so the scholars say that, okay, if you wake up at that point in time, right, at that point in time for sahur, only because you know you're going to fast the very next day, that already counts as an intention lah. So you wake up only because you know you're going to fast the very next day. However, if you're eating a meal, pre-dawn meal, right, sahur meal, and it's your habit to eat that meal every single day, it's your habit, so it doesn't count as an intention, because you wake up every day anyway and you eat at 5:30 anyway every day, right? So it's not an intention because it's not something different that you're going to do. You're not doing it because you're going to fast. You're doing it because that's just how you eat every day. Every day you eat at 5:30 in the morning, for example, right? So it has to be, the intention will be in the heart anyway. So you wake up in the morning and you're really like, okay, I'm going to eat sahur, I'm going to fast today. That's already counts as an intention. It counts as an intention. Because you're just thinking to yourself, I'm going to eat sahur now because I'm going to fast. I'm going to drink a bit more water, eat a bit more fruits, eat a bit more, because you're going to fast. Right? So you're already having the intention in yourself. Of course, it is best for you to, say the intention out loud to ensure that you have done the intention in the Shafi'i mazhab. Okay, so in other mazhabs, you can do the intention. In the Maliki mazhab, you can do the intention at the beginning of the month of Ramadan, right? But the Shafi'i mazhab requires for you to do the intention every single night of Ramadan. So at the beginning of Ramadan, you intend to fast the entire month. You just do that, okay, for the barakah of the Maliki mazhab. Okay, every night in Ramadan, you're going to intend to fast the very next day. If any of the nights of Ramadan you completely forgot to intend to fast the next day, right, the following day you do imsak. Means you go on as if you're fasting. Then after Ramadan, do a qada of that day. It's not hard. It's not hard at all to do a qada. Right, so inshallah able to do that. Right, so the fasting person himself, right, so, and refraining from doing things which break the fast for the one who is conscious of his fast and not ignorant, right? So what are the things? Says watarkul mufattirin zakiran mukhtaran ghayra jahilin ma'zur, right? So this second condition, right, it is that you are to leave all things that break the fast. And what are these things? Right, for example, food and drink, right, insertion of anything into any open hole in the body, right? So your open holes are your nose, right, your mouth, your ears, and your private parts. these are open holes into your body. So the insertion of anything into the open holes of the body, the jawf, right, the internal part of the body, that would nullify the fast, right? So putting in like eardrops, right? Even when you istinja, you don't actually put your finger into your private parts because the water on your fingers can enter right into your private parts, for example, right? Other than that, perform having intercourse, right, will nullify the fast, and in fact, it is a major sin to have intercourse in the days of Ramadan, and that will require a full kafara. It's called kafaratul uzma, like a big kafara, right? To do as a penalty for the one who has intercourse on the day of Ramadan. To force vomit, right, would nullify the fast. And then to force yourself, uh, to do something, right, to cause for money, right, to come out, right, money meaning the sexual fluid, to do something to cause for money to come out, right, that would also nullify the fast. That means you are the cause of it, right? But however, if it happens without you being the cause of it, for example, in a dream, then that's not nullify your fast. Okay, right? So okay, so your body, as your body is your the internal cavity of your body is your head, right? Your respiratory system, like your lungs, and your digestive system. That is the internal cavities of your body, right? So having anything come into the internal cavities of your body would nullify your fast, right? So which is why putting in eardrops, right, they will reach the inside of your head. I mean your ear canal and so on, whatever it's called, like the inside of your ears, it will nullify your fast. With regards to your throat, right, nullify your fast. Your lungs, which is why smoking will nullify the fast, because it is bringing in particles into the body. However, and on purpose. However, things that are done not on purpose, like for example, if you breathe in smoke, not on purpose, right? The dust, on the street, right, not on purpose, right? So all of these things will not nullify your fast. Breathing in atar does not nullify your fast. It does not, right? So burning bukhor does not nullify your fast, right? But sucking in with a cigarette, that nullifies your fast. Okay, that one nullifies your fast. But if someone were to burn bukhor in the house, spray atar, spray, perfumes, they don't nullify your fast, because these things are vapor. It's vapor that is in the air, does not nullify the fast. Okay, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Okay, okay, right. So if somebody were to do all these things knowingly, choosing to do these things, knowledge that these things will nullify the fast, then they will all nullify the fast. Okay. However, if you do these things forgetfully, right, or they were forced into it, and so someone forces them to consume food in the day of Ramadan, then it does not nullify the fast, right? So in places whereby they're like oppressive governments, like in China, for example, in the past, the communists, right, used to force the Muslims to eat pork during the day of Ramadan. So even if the Muslims ate it, it will not do anything to their fast. It does not nullify their fast, right? So these people are zalim, they're oppressive, right? So it will not do anything to their fast, right? So or someone who does something without realizing these things nullify their fast. Like for example, someone who just came into Islam, and then in Ramadan, right, she, for example, used eardrops, right, into her ear, and then she didn't know that they will nullify her fast, right? And then she's told that it will nullify her fast, right? So doing it ignorantly because she just came into Islam and she had no time to actually learn that these things would nullify the fast. But for somebody who's been Muslim for quite some time, they have no excuse, because you have time to learn, right, all these things before performing the fast. Okay, right. So here, right, to understand this, right, that with the fast, and the fasting person himself, right, it's compulsory to be there, right, for there to be a fast lah. Right? Because for example, for prayer, right, there's entire movement of prayer. For fasting, there's no movement of fasting, but the person, right, is the one who's doing the fasting. Right, so there has to be a person there, lah, obviously, lah. Right, there has to be a person there to perform the fast. Okay, let me just see the questions here. Okay. Okay, so cleaning the ears with a cotton bud, right? So good question. Cotton bud, if it's going to go deep into your ears, it will nullify your fast, right? Because of parts of the cotton bud that could possibly be left in the ear. Right? You're going to put something into the jawf. It's jawf. Right? So even with wudu, right, you don't use your pinky finger, right, to wash the inward side of your ear. Even your pinky finger is not allowed. But your pointer finger is the one that you use. Use a pointer finger to clean the ears for wudu, not pinky finger. Okay? Right, so no cotton bud the day of Ramadan. And it won't kill you lah. Right? Just after you buka, you can go and dig your ears all you want. Right? Sometimes all these things can just do it later on. Like after you have broken your fast. Right? So even like when you say about the PCR test, right? Um Technically, if you can do it later, in the night, is it possible to do it in the night? I do it in the night. I do it after buka. I do it then. It's to avoid the entire. I know they give a fatwa about it, right? But you can just avoid it. Avoid the khilaf. I just avoid it, right? So then just do it, later, right? If you can do it later, but I don't know whether the thing is only open until 5, is it? Right? And if you can avoid doing it in Ramadan, you do avoid doing it in Ramadan, try your best. Yeah, but of course, that's why they give the fatwa lah, in case for those people who really can't do it and they really have to do it in the daytime of Ramadan, right? And if you really want to, then you can do a qada if you want to, right? Just to make up for it, right? Just to do extra in your religion if you want to. I'm not saying you have to, right? But just to do extra, right, in your religion. Okay. Alhamdulillah, we're going to the next part, subsection on the major kafara, right, with regards to the fasting. Right. So inshallah, let's see, should we go to this today? Go through very quickly the fasting part. Because fasting also is uh it's not much lah to cover. Right, we can fast and so on. Okay, I think the kafara I'll do next week, inshallah. Right. It's very simple actually. For fasting. There's not much to talk about. Mhm. Okay. Yeah, we just spoke about it, kind of swab test. Right. So try your best not to do it while you're fasting. But if you're doing it on the outside of your nose like this, it won't do anything to you. But when you go all the way deep in, right? The fatwa is that it will not nullify your fast. But try to avoid it in the day of Ramadan. Try your best to avoid in the day of Ramadan. It does not um yeah, yeah, to avoid it as far as you can the day of Ramadan. Right, but it's just the fatwa is there lah. Right, for the fatwa is basically there for people to use. You really have to, right? But if you don't have to use it, don't go for it. Right, it's there to make it easy for those who have to, right? But if you don't have to, then tak payah lah. I don't have to use it. Okay, inshallah, that's all for today. Wasallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad.